Yeah, so please lie on your back. And today we will do a lesson lying on our backs. So if you need any extra head support, you're welcome to grab that. Especially if that helps you feel more comfortable. And then at some point during the lesson, if you start to feel like it's maybe in your way a little bit, you can always remove it. And just a reminder that like the movements are secondary. The most important thing is for you to get to have this time and this space to sense yourself, right? Kind of reconnect with your bodies, find movement that feels more pleasurable, more easy. So everything I say is just a suggestion. Right? You can always modify, you can always rest more, you can always do things in your imagination. Right. And maybe sometimes you don't feel like resting and being still, but you actually feel like being a little bit more active, and that's okay too. And I think the last thing that I'll say, because it's been kind of a recent relevation from like combining ballet terms and psychology terms there, a relevation, but revelation is that I think Feldenkrais is kind of closer to sleep than it is to traditional exercises. So I really don't think that you can do too little. Like, even just sensing the initiation of the movement, or even if your mind starts to drift a little bit, it's like sometimes our attention can be a little too bright or something. And so when our mind starts to drift, sometimes that's when we feel changes happening, right? It's like by somehow softening our attention, then there's actually kind of the space for a change to happen. So thought I just share those things. So as you're lying on your back, you can just see what's coming to your attention. And again, there's no right or wrong. Good. Yeah, maybe you notice your breathing. And then it's a funny thing, often when we bring our attention to our breath, it changes. Right? And again, that's okay. There's no right or wrong about it. Yeah, so just lying on your back and noticing what comes to your attention. Yeah, so we were saying maybe it's your breathing, or maybe it's something more external right now, right? So the sound of my voice, or the light in your room, or the temperature in your room. And just giving yourself some time to arrive and settle. And then you may start to feel your contact with the floor. It may feel like some parts of you are a little heavier or resting more clearly on the floor. And so that's often your pelvis, and your head. and your heels. And you may feel like one side of your pelvis is contacting the floor a little bit more clearly or feels a little heavier. Yeah. And then really easily just turn your head a little bit towards that side where your pelvis feels a little heavier, and then come back to the middle. Right? And if you're not quite sure which side feels heavier, that's all right. You just choose a direction. Nice. And you stay within that range that feels so easy to you, right? It's almost like you're floating, maybe, and your head just floats over there. And each time you're reducing your effort. Good. And then just sense your jaw, sense your throat. And sense your chest, your shoulders. Good. And then pause. Good. And then see what it's like if you continue turning your head towards the side where your pelvis feels a little heavier. But this time, see what it's like if you just really gently take your tongue in the same direction. Right? And your tongue can stay inside your mouth. Right? It doesn't have to be the tip of your tongue, but it's just like your whole tongue is maybe just sliding a little bit in the direction that you're turning your head, and then your tongue and your head come back to the middle. Nice. Right. And maybe you feel you can create a little bit of space between your teeth. Nice. Good. Good. And then pause. And now see what it's like if, as you turn your head towards the side that's heavy, if you take your tongue in the opposite direction. And again, really light, really easy. It doesn't have to be a big movement. Right? And that might feel familiar. It might feel less familiar, easier, more difficult. Right? Any differences you notice. Good. And then allow your tongue to go in the same direction as your head. Just once or twice, just to feel that difference. Good. And then let that go and rest. And you can have your legs long or bent, whatever feels more comfortable right now. Good. Good. And now feel the parts of you that are lifted away from the floor. Right? So often that's behind your knees, and you may feel like one knee is a little bit more lifted than the other, right? Behind your lower back. And again, you may feel like one side of your lower back's a little bit more lifted than the other. And then behind your neck. And again, there may be a difference between the two sides. And then, really easily, whichever side of your lower back feels a little bit more lifted from the floor, just really easily turn your head in that direction. And again, it can be as small as you want it to be. You just stay within that range that feels so easy, so light. And then you come back to the middle. And then you just sense like, where do you stop yourself as you do that movement, right? Where does it feel like, oh, this is so light? And then somewhere it starts to feel like, huh, right? Maybe in your neck or your chest. It's like some part of you just kind of put the brakes on a little bit or something. Good. And then see what happens if you add the movement of your tongue. So as you turn your head, you just really easily, you just can even think of your tongue just going in that direction a little bit. And then they both come back to your middle. Good. Softening your throat. Right. Really allowing your chin to go up or down. Right. As it feels best. Good. And then pause, just take a little rest, and you can always rest anytime you'd like to. You don't have to wait for me. Yeah, and then when you're ready, you can really easily turn your head in that same direction, but this time take your tongue a little bit in the opposite direction. Right, and it can be the tip of your tongue or the side of your tongue. Maybe you think more about the base of your tongue. And just feel how that affects the turning of your head, right? Or your breathing. Right. Good. And then allow your tongue to go in the same direction as you're turning your head, just once or twice. A little space between your teeth, maybe. Good. And then when you're done with that, please rest. And you can stay resting on your back, or if you feel like you want to rest in a different position, you can. Yeah, and the rest, you may feel like being still, or you may feel like being active, right? Whatever you need. Mm. Good. So now, please bend both your legs and stand both of your feet on the floor. And you find a place where where the legs feel relatively balanced. And it doesn't mean symmetrical, right? So one leg may be more turned in or turned out or off to the side, and that's all perfectly fine. And now, really easily, just begin tilting your pelvis a little forwards and backwards, right? Nice and easy, going as big or small as you'd like. And if that already sounds like a big movement, you just, you do it smaller. But you're just gently, it's almost like you're rolling your pelvis a little. So your lower back comes a little bit closer to the floor. And then you're rolling your pelvis a little bit in the opposite direction. So your tailbone goes a little closer to the floor. Nice and easy. Good. And you may start to feel how this movement goes through your body. Right? You may start to feel like it goes all the way up to your head. Again, nice and easy. And so you may feel as you tilt your pelvis, we would say backwards, so your lower back goes a little towards the floor, that either your head is being pushed up on the ground, right? Or if your head is staying relatively stationary, then you might feel like your chin is coming a little bit away from your chest. And it's like your head is rolling backwards. Mhm. Maybe a combination of the both. And then as you tilt your pelvis a little forwards, your lower back may be coming a little bit away from the floor. And your chin may be coming a little closer to your chest, or you may feel like your head is being pulled down, or both. Good. Good. And then when you're done with that, please lengthen your legs down and take a rest. And now, please bend one of your legs and stand one foot on the floor. It's up to you which one you want to work with, and you can always rest longer if you need. And so now you're going to really easily just roll your pelvis a little bit towards that leg that's long and then come back. Yeah. And you just stay within that range that it feels like your pelvis is light. Yeah, and there are many ways to do this. So just give yourself some time and yeah, good. Good. So now please lengthen down that leg and take a little rest. We'll come back to it. And please bend your other leg and stand that foot on the floor. And really easily begin rolling your pelvis to the other side, right towards that leg that's long. And just start to feel like what's different on this side. Does your pelvis feel heavier or lighter? Mhm. Good. And really letting go of any effort in your movement and any effort in your ambition. Good. Good. Just feeling what you do, right where you feel movement. Good. And then when you're done with that, please lengthen your leg down and take a rest. Or if you ever feel like you need more time, just continue moving. That's totally fine. And then in resting now, sense the length of each of your legs and sense how your pelvis is contacting the floor now, the space behind your lower back and your neck. And then really easily just turn your head a little bit from side to side just to see how that's going. Yeah, and if you want to, you can reconnect with the movement of your tongue. Good. And then when you're done with that, rest. Please bend one of your legs and stand your foot on the floor. You can choose now that you've felt both sides, kind of which one you want to work with. And then, yeah, return to rolling your pelvis towards the leg that's long. And you can have this idea like it's almost as if you're trying to roll onto your side. And of course, you don't have to get there, but sometimes it helps to kind of have a clear image. Yeah, notice what you do. Like, do you side bend a little bit? Do you tuck your pelvis under? Or do you kind of extend and arch your back? What do you do? Yeah, and just see what if you have this idea that it's as if that standing knee is going to go down and away from you and over your foot a little bit more. Mm, right. Yeah, because there's a way to do it where you can, it's almost like you close that hip joint and you like draw your thigh towards your pelvis. That's one way to do it. And you can also do it in a way where you open your hip joint and it's like your knee is going over the standing foot. Yeah. And again, you don't have to make yourself do that, but you just want to start to feel like what is it that you do? Nice. Good. And then you can start to feel how far up your body does the movement travel. And there's the coming back, right? There's the lifting away from the floor. Nice and easy. And then there's the coming back to the floor and really feeling the floor through that whole movement. Right? The floor is there to support you. Good. And then you can start to notice what you do with your head. Right? Do you like to turn your head in the same direction as you're rolling your pelvis or the opposite direction? Good. And you just rest whenever you want to rest. Good. Good. Yeah, and feel how your ribs may be rolling. Good. 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 And then when you're done with that, take a rest. Mhm. Mm. Please bend the opposite leg that you were just working with and stand that foot on the floor. And then really easily begin rolling your pelvis towards the leg that's long and then coming back and just seeing how it is on this side. Good. Nice. And you can have this idea that the side that you're rolling towards, it's like you can almost think like you're painting the floor with it like a roller, the rollers that you used to paint with, or like a bulldozer has that round, right, kind of wheel that it rolls through. Right, so just notice like what are you doing with the leg that's long? Right, can you allow it to roll as well? Mhm. Good. And in fact, you can kind of feel the opposite and see what happens if, as you're trying to roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long, what if you hold that leg like and stabilize it and keep it straight? right? How does that affect your ability to move your pelvis? As opposed to if you let it roll. Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's often in Feldenkrais, like I think we think that when something feels hard, it's because we're trying to do the opposite movement at the same time. So you're using your kinesthetic sense, right? Your ability to sense yourself to just start to feel, oh yeah, like how am I actually kind of putting on the brakes in this movement? And often we have really good reasons for doing that. So, sometimes you can let go of the brakes right away. Sometimes it's just a little bit. So you just move at your own pace, right? There's no rush. Good. And then you can also start to feel like, what are you doing with that standing leg? Is there a sense exactly that the hip joint can open, that the knee can go away from you a little bit, maybe? Right. Nice. Yeah. And then just feeling how this movement can kind of ripple through you, maybe all the way up to your head. Good. And really feeling the floor under you. Right. So it's almost like that support is just constantly there under you. Good. And just noticing your jaw and your mouth. And noticing, yeah, good. Right? Like, what does your head do? Does it roll or does it sometimes tilt? Do you shrug your shoulders? Right? And does that have anything to do with what's happening in your ribs? Good. And then whenever you're done with that, just take a rest. Mhm. Good. And please stand one of your legs on the floor. And bend the leg, stand the foot, and now bring your arms in front of you into what we call a triangle position. So your arms are relatively straight, your palms are touching. And it's like you're making a yeah, triangle right in front of you. Exactly. Good. And now, as you roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long, also take your arms in that same direction. Right? So it's like all of you, your pelvis, your upper body are rolling a little bit in that same direction and then coming back. Yeah, and don't worry if it feels difficult or your ribs feel heavier like this. For some of you, this makes the movement easier. For others, it makes it more difficult. So just notice that. And then each time you just want to reduce your effort, right? Instead of pushing yourself to get further, you see, okay, what can I let go of? How can I make this easier? Nice. Nice and easy. Good. And each time you come back, right, you can rest for a moment, let go of any residual effort. And then when you're ready, do the movement again. Mhm. And just notice like, are you just moving your upper body or can your pelvis still roll as well? Nice and easy though. Good. And now, as you roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long, really easily take your triangle in the opposite direction, but really light, really easy, just to feel that difference, because that might feel more familiar, or it might give you a little like, oh, yeah, I'm kind of doing that all the time, right? Or you might feel like this doesn't make any sense. And that's all right. So don't force anything. Or you might feel like, oh, this is kind of fun to have both options, right? I can go this way and that way. hmm Nice, good. And now allow the triangle to go in the same direction as your pelvis again. And don't leave your pelvis behind. Don't forget about your pelvis. Uh-huh. Or you can. In Feldenkrais, we say, know what you're doing so you can do what you want. So if you feel like, oh, yeah, I'd rather not move my pelvis right now, that's okay. But just know that you're doing it. Good, good. Yeah. And now bring your arms down by your side and just once or twice, just to see how it feels, roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long. Nice and easy, just to feel any difference. Uh-huh. Good. And then when you're done with that, lengthen your leg down and rest. hmm Good. And then resting now, just sense one side compared to the other. And do you feel any differences in your legs, your pelvis, your torso, your arms, your neck, maybe in your face? Hmm. And so now, please bend your other leg and stand that foot on the floor and bring your arms into the triangle position. And really easily begin rolling your pelvis towards the leg that's long and taking your arms and your ribs and maybe even your head in the same direction. Nice and easy, right? In Feldenkrais, we often get more benefit when we do less. So, mm, right? Because often the kind of habit of organization that's interfering or inhibiting the movement, often it's like right at that initiation. It's there from the start. So there's nothing wrong with hanging out in that place if that feels good to you. Mhm. Good, nice. Yeah, really letting go of any unnecessary muscular effort in your quads across the front of your pelvis, right? So there's neither a sense of pushing or pulling, right? Instead, you find this skeletal connection. Good. And you can also play with pushing through the foot if you want. I know I just said no pushing or pulling, but there's not really rules. So you can experiment with pushing through the standing leg because you might get something useful from that variation. Might help you find something. Right? Just you get to explore, play around with it, right? So that each time there's something a little different. Nice. Yeah, exactly. And you can start to play with the trajectory of your arms, right? Do they go straight to the side, or is it helpful if they go up towards your head a little bit? Nice and easy for yourself, really softening your chest if you can. Good, nice. Nice. And then if you want to, you can take your arms in the opposite direction. And you can always rest in between if you need a rest. Mhm. Good. And then if you haven't already, you can take your arms in the same direction as you're rolling your pelvis. Right? Mhm. Mhm. And then And when you're done with that, you can bring your arms down and just once or twice roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long. And again, no expectation, just to really see like what is it like right now? Right? It's a funny thing, especially those of us who have like trained our bodies in sports or posture or different exercise modalities. Like we have a lot of ideas that we've kind of trained ourselves to do, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But often you find in Feldenkrais, like it's a lot of learning how to kind of let go of those ideas that starts to make movement easier. Good. And so whenever you're done with that, lengthen your legs down and take a little rest. Good. One of my teachers would say like the limitation it's not in your body, but it's in your mind or your idea of what you think the movement is. So sense into yourself right now, and you can decide. I think we'll do one more variation, and if that sounds good, you continue on. If you'd rather just rest for a while longer, you can. If you feel like you've had enough, really, whatever feels right for you right now is totally okay. Yeah, but if you'd like to try one more variation, then you'll go ahead and bend one leg and stand that foot on the floor. And then you're going to bring so the same arm as the leg that's standing, you're going to bring that arm into what I would call bridge position. So it's like you lift the arm and you bend the elbow so that your palm comes down and is resting beside on the floor beside your ear, beside your head. Yeah, exactly. Just with that one arm, if that's comfortable. And if not, you can just rest on your fingertips or have a book or some folded up towels there, whatever you need, or just bring your arm down. And now, in this position, go ahead and roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long, nice and easy. And just notice, right, how this might change the movement for you. Notice what you do with your head. Yeah, and you rest your arm whenever you need to rest it. And now see, what if you have this idea that as you are rolling your pelvis toward the leg that's long, that you're actually going to kind of turn your head and look up. And in Feldenkrais, we try to always give the directions like relative to your body. So in this case, up is not necessarily towards the ceiling, but it's up over your head, right? So towards the wall that's above your head. So it starts to invite a little bit of extension through yeah, rest that arm, place that arm wherever you need it. Just bring it down if you need, that's fine. Yeah, and you can just experiment with as you roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long, that you have this idea that you're extending your spine. You're looking up a little bit. Right. And you might even have this idea that it's like the back of your head is going to slide between the gap between your hand and your shoulder on the floor. But again, nice and easy. You don't have to get there. It's just an idea. Right. And that arm that's lying on the floor, you can bring it up to shoulder height if you want. Right. So it's still resting on the floor, but it's a little bit higher up. Yeah. So it's kind of out of the way a little. But again, nice and easy. And you can notice, like, yeah, exactly, right. Nice and easy. You can, if that arm, that standing arm's in the way, you can fold it across your chest, like, yeah, whatever helps you feel the movement of your spine a little bit more clearly. Feel yourself. Yes. Nice and easy. Good. And then bring your arms into the triangle position again. And as you roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long, think of taking your arms to the side, but then up over your head. Yeah, and as you do that, you can look up. Yes, there you go. That's it. Nice. But again, nice and easy, just because I say there you go, that's it, right? You can, I have to check my ambition a little bit too. But if that's easy for you, maybe that clarifies the movement in some way. Yeah, feeling how you can allow your lower abdomen, right, to go forwards. Maybe you even inhale, tilting your pelvis forwards as you roll your pelvis to the side. Right, extending your lower back a little bit if that's comfortable. Really letting your lower belly go. Nice, nice. But again, in a way that feels easy on your neck. Mhm. Yeah, good. And if you're allowing your knee to tilt to the side, that's brilliant. That's a good way to make it easier. And then see if you can also keep your knee towards the ceiling as you do it. Uh-huh. So it's going to ask a little something different of your hip joint. Your pelvis is going to need to, uh-huh. Nice and easy. Yeah. Good. And you can go back and forth between the two, right? So that you find the difference for yourself. Beautiful. Good. Good. Yeah. And then if you want to, only if you want to, you can bring that hand back into the bridge position, only if you want to, and just see what it's like to roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long and look up. Just to see, did it get any easier? Or maybe it's more difficult, and that's fine. Lovely. Chin away from the chest if it's comfortable looking up. Yeah, maybe the back of your head goes through. Exactly what to do with that arm that's on the floor. Nice. And again, only right, still moving in that way where you feel like you can still breathe. It still feels easy. Good. And then bring your arm down, bring your leg down, take a little rest. Nice and easy back to the floor. Good. And just feel the difference between your two sides now. And then please bend your other leg, stand your other foot on the floor. Bring your arm into bridge position if you want, or not. And then go ahead and take the arm that's lying on the floor and bring it up to shoulder height if that's comfortable. So still on the floor, but further away from your torso. Good. And now see what it's like to roll your pelvis a little bit towards the leg that's long and really give this side like as much time as it needs. Like it may have learned from the other side. This side might already be easier for you, but if it's not, like really, really just like accept that, right? Like as if it was like a little baby or something, right? So you don't have any expectations, right? You just kind of let it learn at its own pace. Nice and easy, just staying with what feels good and pleasurable to you, where you can breathe, where your jaw feels easy, your throat. Yeah, nice. Right, exploring. Very nice. Good. And then once you've done that, if you want, you can bring your arms into the triangle position. And then as you roll your pelvis towards the leg that's long, you take your arms to the side, but also up as you do that. And you allow your head to look up and fall. Yes. Yep. Good. And you can allow your lower abdomen to go forward, maybe. You can even try inhaling as you do that into the lower abdomen. It's almost like your viscera can just like be ballast, right? That just kind of spills over and the rest of you can follow. Finding that extension, nice. And notice, yeah, what do you tend to do? Do you tend to kind of exhale and contract your abdomen first? That might be helpful. Or maybe it's more helpful to stay long through your abdomen so the contraction is more in your back. Uh-huh. Nice. Nice and easy. Yeah, and you may find that there's a little rotation that you side bend a little. That's very normal. It's okay. You just follow that like skeletal path. Good. And then if you'd like to, you can bring your arm back into that bridge position and just once or twice see what it's like to roll your pelvis now. And the back of your head can go backwards, right? I don't think we think about that very often. The back of the head can go backwards. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Good. And then when you're ready, you can bring your arms down and maybe just leave that leg standing and just once roll your pelvis itself, right? Just to see, did it get any easier? Maybe yes, maybe no. Or if you feel good and like you just want to stop there, you just stop there. Good. And then when you're done with that, you can lengthen your leg down and sense yourself now and just feel if anything feels different. Maybe roll your head a little bit from side to side. Yeah, and you can go back to your tongue being easy, a little space between your teeth, maybe. Good. Soften your shoulders. Nice, beautiful. Good. And then when you're done with that, please roll to your side and come on up to sitting and standing. Yeah, but you're at home, so if you feel like you'd rather keep resting, you're welcome to. It's totally fine. Sometimes it's nice to take a nap if you have time afterwards to integrate. I will say it is 1 o'clock. I'm sorry we went a little long today. We don't usually do that. So if anyone needs to jump out, you can. But I have time, so you're welcome to stay with yourself And it can be nice to come up to standing and walk around a little, or if you're, yeah, good. And I'm going to just stop the recording.